Welcome back to Turkish series stars, the corner of the internet that understands the loudest truth is often hidden beneath the quietest pause. Today is not a routine upload. It is a deep dive into a tremor that has rattled boardrooms, fan forums, and the very foundations of Turkish entertainment. We are turning our focus to two names whose mere conjunction can stop traffic on the Bosphorus at rush hour, Hazal and Çağatay Ulusoy. This is not a bedtime story. It is a knot of desire, strategy, and a single line of judgment that has left insiders reeling. Before we wade into the turbulence, make sure you're part of our community. Subscribe, tap like so this reaches the viewers who look beyond the headlines, and consider joining as a member by hitting the join button. Our members get priority in discussions and help us sustain this kind of uncompromising storytelling. Now, take a breath. We're stepping straight into the eye of the storm. In the grand drama of Turkish media, sparks flare every day. Fires erupt once in a while. But every few years, an inferno threatens to swallow the stage whole. What's unfolding around Hazal and Çağatay Ulusoy belongs to that last category, a growing blaze that began as a murmur and swelled into a chorus that refuses to go quiet. For weeks, speculation has surged with claustrophobic intensity. That an irresistible pull has formed between the queen of drama, whose face can register 1,000 shades of feeling, and the golden boy of the streaming age, a star whose path accelerates even as others stall. On paper, it's the story the fandom has been scripting in their dreams since they first shared the screen. Online, it is the algorithm's favorite obsession. Fan edits glowing like votive candles, prayers disguised as playlists, nostalgia braided into hope that pretend love might finally come to life. And just as the fantasy reached a boiling point, a blast of cold air shut the window. Not a publicist's memo, not a neat denial crafted in a conference room. Instead, according to those at the center, a verdict dropped in private with the weight of a gavel: this love is impossible. To understand that sentence, we have to understand the room in which it was spoken. The spark wasn't a paparazzi ambush. It flickered in the soft-lit privacy of a high society soiree, the sort of evening where the champagne is bottomless but secrets are kept in vaults. Chandeliers glittered, cameras floated by, and yet the real current ran in the darker corners. Witnesses embedded in the orbit of both names say Hazal and Çağatay found themselves tucked into a pocket of quiet, a corridor where the music blurred and the crowd ceased to exist. It wasn't idle small talk. It was focus. The kind of conversation that bends gravity, making everything else recede. After that night, nothing stayed contained. The whisper trail grew teeth. There were alleged late-night messages, 3 a.m. confessions delivered to the cloud. Talk of blacked-out cars, drivers with instructions, schedules rearranged with surgical precision. The rumor took on architecture, detail by detail, becoming something that felt less like fantasy and uncomfortably close to real. And then, we return to the blade that cuts through the noise: impossible. Why would a man like Çağatay, who has raced past obstacles most can't name, choose a word with such finality? Sources say the statement surfaced over a private dinner where phones were surrendered and doors checked twice. Reportedly, he explained with resignation rather than heat, sensational speculation, misaligned with facts, a story that collapses under scrutiny, a house built on shifting sand. He called it structurally unworkable. Turkish series stars family, let's consider the psychology of that phrase. When someone calls a love structurally impossible, are they dismissing their feelings? Or acknowledging a world around them that won't allow those feelings to breathe? Is the word a refusal of the person, or of the battlefield on which they'd have to stand? Head to the comments and give us your read. Members, I'll be pinning the sharpest takes first, so don't hold back. And while you're there, remember to like the video so we can keep pushing past the algorithmic fog. The impossibility, those close to the situation insist, isn't a scarcity of emotion. If anything, it's the surplus of history. A legacy hangs over these two, a shared past that fans mythologize, magnifying every glance into a parable. Nostalgia in this industry cuts both ways. It can be the bridge to a loyal audience, and the trapdoor that drops an actor back into yesterday. If Hazal and Çağatay were to step forward together, the collision between their storied past and a fragile present would be explosive. Would the old storyline smolder and vanish, or would the embers surge back and scorch everything new? Agents, producers, and networks are haunted by that calculus. Then there is the wall with the firmest mortar, family. Those who've watched Hazal's career with clear eyes know how fiercely she guards her private world. Her inner circle defends her boundaries with quiet intensity. They've watched how rumor-fueled storms can erode a person's peace, how reputation is a currency that takes years to earn and seconds to spend. Their counsel has swayed major chapters in her life before, and in this equation, the variables do not add up in favor of a union with a man whose life is a moving target. This is not a question of respecting or not respecting him. By all accounts, admiration for Çağatay's talent is sincere. But he carries a package. Headlines that shout, schedules carved by time zones, flights that cannibalize sleep, a life defined by speed. He is whether beautiful, unpredictable, demanding. Hazal's world prioritizes quiet, steadiness, a sense of home. She is a harbor, he is a ship that refuses a long anchorage. That contrast, say those closest to her, creates a tension that emotion alone cannot smooth. As the rumor mill screamed, Hazal made a choice that spoke louder than any press line. She went still. Not an absent-minded silence, but a deliberate one. No confirmations, no rebuttals. Less presence online, fewer personal glimpses, a retreat into the reality that matters. Advisors, we are told, encouraged the step back. Let the blaze starve. Reduce oxygen until the flames collapse onto themselves. It's not surrender, it's strategy. Across the water, Çağatay stands at a crossroads with meetings stacking, maps unfurling, and momentum piling up like dominoes. And yet there's a steady rhythm undercutting all of it, a heartbeat that refuses to follow the strategic plan. Those close to him describe a tug-of-war between impulse and arithmetic. That night under the chandeliers may have set a fuse he's tried to snuff out with logic. The business punishes recklessness. The audience is always watching. One wrong step and the narrative becomes unmanageable. Insiders parsing his statement argue the word impossible wasn't a blade aimed at Hazal, but a shield raised in front of her. This fire will burn her, he reportedly told someone he trusts. He has survived heat before. Storms move through him. But for someone who values the sanctity of her inner life, the aftermath could linger like winter. These are not the words of indifference. They are the calculations of someone who measures cost in her currency, not his. Someone who refuses to watch a woman he respects, perhaps loves, be pulled into an arena that rewards spectacle and devours tenderness. And then come the digital breadcrumbs, catalogued by the amateur archivists who miss nothing. His latest images slant toward dusk, lonely figures, low light, muted tones. Her posts have thinned. When they do appear, they feel composed, controlled, almost frost-edged. Even their interactions with mutual friends appear quieter, as if everyone agreed. Without saying so, to speak a little less. It doesn't smell like absence so much as aftermath. As if something flared, hot, brief, undeniable, and now they are both walking through the echo it left behind. Hovering above them are the timekeepers of the industry, producers with rigid calendars, managers who babysit reputations, platforms that don't gamble on chaos. They want this storyline packed up and buried deep. If a romance like this sees daylight, the fallout won't stop at tabloid snaps. Contracts trip. Timelines buckle. Public images, curated with the precision of a watchmaker, warp in the heat of 1,000 hot takes. His global ascent is a national point of pride, a jet stream you don't disturb without consequences. Her position as a cherished face of homegrown artistry isn't a token to be tossed into a fountain. And so the countermeasures appear, almost banal in their efficiency. Shared events suddenly rescheduled. Private dinners erased from calendars. Photo ops quietly cancelled. Officially, nothing is happening. Unofficially, the frantic effort to create distance suggests there is more than vapor. Where there is smoke, there is organization. Where there is organization, there was a fire someone is desperate to smother before the house catches. Here we are, at the edge of a season, staring at a question that refuses to go to bed. This love, anointed impossible, was it truly a mirage? Or did it draw breath for one luminous, terrifying instant before family gravity, resurrected history, and the cold math of show business pressed it back into the dark? Istanbul, for all its debates, agrees on only one point: the curtain has not fallen. It has been lowered on purpose, velvet and heavy, concealing a stage that might still shock us with a scene no one planned. So I hand it to you. Is impossible a period or a dare? Who carries the heavier silence? Hazal, who knows the value of serenity, or Çağatay, who thrives in motion yet glances back at the calm he can't quite claim? Tell us what you see in the negative space. We read everything, and our members get first pin for the sharpest insights. If you want to help us keep bringing the Turkish series stars perspective, clear-eyed, unsponsored, relentless, hit join. Like, subscribe, and keep your gaze on the dim corners. That's where the truth tends to linger. There is another layer we cannot ignore: timing. Projects on the horizon, launches teased, contracts tethered to rollouts. The calculus of when and how becomes a choke point. If the whispers persist, the narrative will own them, not the other way around. That's the fear in those rooms, the fear that a story told at the wrong hour becomes the only story. One stray sighting, a careless caption, a smile held a beat too long, and suddenly the machine resets its priorities around a romance that was never supposed to take center stage. The irony, of course, is that the harder the system pushes down, the more the rumor balloons. The tightness of the silence makes a drum of every heartbeat. Remember the phrase that started this: structurally impossible. Machinery matters. Family rhythms, personal rituals, press cycles, production schedules, fan expectations. Two lives moving at different tempos can sometimes dance, but to become a lasting duet, they have to agree on the beat. It's not a question of right or wrong, as their friends remind us, it's a question of survivability. Can a harbor love a storm without surrendering its safety? Can a storm love a harbor without losing the wind? Some will argue that love jokes about logistics, that it rewrites calendars and changes climates. Others will counter that love that endures respects the weather report. And perhaps that is where they are now, looking at the forecast, deciding whether to brave a season of thunder or to let this pass as a cloud that broke open for a moment and then moved on. Neither outcome is simple. Both are costly in different currencies. Both leave marks you can't always see, but you hear them in the hush between posts, in the careful choice of each word, in the way two people exit rooms on separate timelines. For now, the message remains staged but sincere: nothing to see here. Yet every barrier put in place swears there is something to protect. Every cancelled dinner reads like a full-stop punctuation to a sentence the public never got to hear. The story could end with memory, with respect, with silence carrying the last line. Or it could surprise everyone with a grand refusal of the script. Curtain calls are funny things. They happen when you think the play has ended and the actors step back out, hands entwined, letting the audience know what the scene really meant. Until that happens, if it happens, we wait. We read the light in their photos, the gaps in their timelines, the hush around their names at gatherings where people once casually paired them in conversation. We remember that behind the images are two people, not archetypes, navigating costs most of us never have to count. And we remind ourselves that love stories in this world are written in pencil first, revised by managers, erased by families, and sometimes, just sometimes, inked by courage. Drop your theories below. We see you, we appreciate you, and we know this audience is different. And if you want us to keep turning over the stones others ignore, keep this space independent. Join, like, and subscribe. I'm not promising a fairy tale. I'm promising we'll keep watching the shadow between what is said and what is felt. Because that's where this story lives, waiting for its next breath.